What's going on, guys? Briar Rabbit here. Today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5. I'm actually really excited about this. Wired.com had an interview by Peter Rubin with Mark Cerny. So this is a really good article. I'm going to put a link down in the description if you want to read it yourself over on Wired.com. Mark Cerny, if you don't know, he's the lead architect of the PlayStation 5. He also developed the PlayStation 4 Pro. He's been in the gaming industry. He's been at Sony forever. He's been in the gaming industry forever. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He's a very smart guy, and he's developing the PlayStation 5. So Peter Rubin went and interviewed him and talked about the upcoming hardware. So first of all, the hardware is not coming out in 2019, but there are development kits out there for game developers. So they wouldn't say 2020, but at this point I would suspect we can see the PlayStation 5 releasing in 2020. Also, Sony's not calling it the PlayStation 5. At least they're not yet. They are calling it the next-gen console. So whether they're going to change the naming structure of the PlayStation brand, or if they just don't want to say PlayStation 5 yet, we don't really know. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be calling it the PlayStation 5, and I suspect they will too when the thing actually comes out. But for now, they don't want to call it the PlayStation 5, at least not publicly. Now, where things get really interesting is the architecture. So as we know, the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One are built on basically PC platforms. They're basically PCs inside. They're kind of miniaturized. But moving forward, that's going to continue with the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 will be built with an 8-core AMD Ryzen Zen 2 processor. So Zen 2 for PCs, this is a 7nm processor, and they're not out yet for PCs. They're expected to come out this summer for PCs, and that would make sense again with the 2020 launch, right? The stuff's still getting built, but it's going to be very new when the PlayStation 5 comes out, if the PlayStation 5 is coming out in 2020. It's also going to be built with an AMD Navi graphics card. So Navi, again, not out yet. It's something the PC community has been really looking at as like the great hope for graphics cards and graphics card prices as well. Interestingly, this will support ray tracing. So right now, if you want to do ray tracing, you got to buy a graphics card, NVIDIA graphics card, over on the PC side. So with ray tracing coming to the console on a Navi graphics card, I mean, that has wide range of implications for gamers, in general. Ray tracing is a really cool experience. Right now, it's really reserved for the most high end of PCs. Even then, it doesn't really make your gaming experience better. The graphic fidelity is cool, but you take such a hit on frame rate that it's not really worth it. So if a console comes out, like the PlayStation 5, and supports ray tracing, that means that more developers are going to start working with ray tracing. Ray tracing is going to get better over time, and everybody will benefit from that. So AMD 8-core Zen 2 processor, Navi graphics with support for ray tracing. Sounds amazing. They also talk about how the AMD chip inside the PlayStation 5 will provide a dramatically different audio experience, with sounds coming from above, behind, and the side. So to me, that sounds a lot like Dolby Atmos. If you haven't seen Dolby Atmos, they have basically special speakers that point up at the ceiling, or you can even mount speakers in the ceiling. And it's a more immersive way of doing kind of surround sound audio, where you don't just get kind of like sound coming from every direction on a flat plane around you, but you get three-dimensional sound with, stuff coming from up there or down there, or you get a much more dynamic version of surround sound. It's very expensive to set up a speaker system like that, say in your living room, if your living room setup supports Dolby Atmos, because the speakers are more expensive, the receiver's more expensive, everything's just more expensive. But with the PlayStation 5, Cerny says, the gold standard will be headphone audio. So whatever they're planning with this new dramatically different audio experience will be best experienced with headphone audio, whether that means they're going to have to build a new kind of headset or not, or if it'll just work with kind of standard stereo headphones. We'll have to wait and see. But I found it really interesting because, we've been kind of stuck at like a a certain level of audio experience in the gaming space with, basically surround sound or virtual surround sound. And most gamers, I don't feel like, really even use that. They just use stereo sound in a headset or on a TV and leave it at that. So, somehow Sony wants to change the paradigm of, sound, and they're going to do it through a headset or headphones, and that's really interesting. They also talk a little bit about VR. They wouldn't talk about a new VR headset, but they did say that the existing VR headset for the PlayStation 4 will be compatible with the PlayStation 5. So, hopefully they do release a new headset. I'd like to see a higher resolution headset. If this thing is going to be capable of pushing 8K graphics, right? So they went ahead and said, it'll support 4K out of the box and 8K. Nobody has 8K TVs yet. They're just not, they're not widely available. And I'm not even so sure that it's going to be available in the near future, at least not at an affordable cost. But in the future, the PlayStation 5 will support 8K TVs, which is a nice thing for them to say because, as we know, with the original PlayStation 4 hardware, it did not support 4K TVs. And I felt like that was really lacking out of the box for the PlayStation 4 because, 4K was right on the edge of acceptance, and we got new consoles that did support it. And with the Pro upgrade and with the One X upgrade, obviously they did start supporting 4K, but with 8K compatibility in the future, if you do end up upgrading to an 8K TV, your PlayStation 5 will support it. With the VR stuff, if the console can handle 8K video, then I definitely want a higher resolution VR experience at a high frame rate. And I also want them to update from the Move controllers for kind of hand tracking. I really like the PlayStation VR headset. I think it's probably the best headset all around of all of the VR headsets that I've used. I've used the Vive and the Oculus as well. And it's more comfortable, it's easier to set up, it's just a better experience. It doesn't look as good, like through the viewport, but just the whole thing is simpler, and arguably, the PlayStation VR headset has the best games right now out of all the platforms. So that's really interesting. They're going to be supporting the old VR headset and hopefully building a new, better one as well, but your old one isn't just going to be a waste. So the other thing is the PlayStation 5 is going to be backward compatible with PlayStation 4 games. Because the PlayStation 4 is built on this PC architecture, and the PlayStation 5 will be as well, it should be a pretty easy way to just, push the games over to a PlayStation 5. That wasn't the case with the PlayStation 3 because it was really built on a custom architecture. The games had to be really customized to work on the cell processor. So it's really caused problems with backward compatibility, but that's not going to be the case moving from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5 because they're basically built on the same architecture. The PlayStation 5 is just going to be much, much more powerful. Even if you don't play video games on a console, if you primarily play video games on a PC like I do, the news about the PlayStation 5 is really, really exciting. First of all, ray tracing coming to a console means that more games are going to support ray tracing. More developers are going to start using ray tracing, getting better at, optimizing ray tracing, and it'll become a bigger part of the industry, all over the place. If you play the next game that's like a multi-platform game, like a Call of Duty or a Destiny, that is coming out on the PlayStation 5, supports ray tracing on the PlayStation 5, well, they might as well put it on the PC as well, and hopefully the Xbox next gen will support ray tracing as well. This console sounds really powerful and pretty current. The Ryzen Zen 2 processor, the Navi graphics card, these are technologies that aren't even out yet. If this console releases in 2020, this thing is going to be right on the cutting edge of where PC hardware is at. And that's pretty good because I always felt like the PlayStation 4 was a little bit behind the times when it actually released. So if the PlayStation 5 is current with, where PC hardware is at, that's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great experience, and it's going to allow for a generational leap in all video games. Many games are cross-platform development right now. you don't release a game just for PC or just for PlayStation or just for Xbox unless one of those companies is really pushing for that. So any game that is developed cross-platform, you're going to see a generational leap when the new consoles come out on PC, on PlayStation 5, on the Xbox, whatever is next. And that's really exciting because that's going to go across the board. Like I was saying with ray tracing, if everybody supports ray tracing, everybody's going to use it on all platforms. And when graphics get better on the consoles, graphics are going to also get better on the PC. And that's really exciting as well. Really, I'm interested to see what this new audio solution is going to look like. It's a hardware-based audio solution right on the AMD chip. Dramatically different audio experience. Sounds very intriguing. Let's see if they can pull it off, especially when they say the gold standard will be headphone audio. You know, that's pretty interesting. So that's it. That's the PlayStation 5 news. I'm really excited about it. Even though I don't play my PlayStation 4 a ton anymore, when the consoles get better, the PC also gets better because of the cross-development stuff. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. What do you mean it's not legit? It says 5 right on it.